The introduction. In the autumn morning in the small town of Maplewood, the horizon was tinged with the soft, muted colors of dawn. As sunlight broke through the dense layer of low-hanging clouds, the landscape remained shrouded in mist, giving a haunting beauty to the surroundings. The faded red brick houses, each with their own history, lined the narrow streets where echoes of laughter and the warmth of family life seemed to lie dormant. However, this peaceful facade masked an unsettling truth. A week prior, the body of a local teenage girl, Emily Thompson, had been discovered in the woods just outside town, sending shockwaves through the community. Initially branded as an accident, later scrutiny transformed the case into one of suspicion and unrest. For those who knew her, Emily was a beacon of brightness, an aspiring artist with dreams of painting the world in vivid colors. Now the vibrant hues of her life had been extinguished, leaving a monochromatic void in a town unprepared for grief. As the investigation unfolded, whispers began to circulate among the townsfolk. Speculations fastened onto the adults' neighbors, teachers, even friends of Emily. With each new detail released, Maplewood shifted from a close-knit community into a place fraught with fear and paranoia. The search for answers became not only a pursuit of justice for Emily, but also a reflection of the very fabric of trust that bound the town together, now fraying at the edge. The victim, Emily Thompson, was more than just a name on a police report. She was a kaleidoscope of dreams encased in a gentle smile that could illuminate even the gloomiest days. At 17, she was often seen strolling through the halls of Maplewood High, her paint-splattered backpack slung over one shoulder, a testament to her artistic pursuit. She was the girl whose laughter harmonized with friends during lunch breaks, and whose sketches adorned classroom walls. Her interests stretched beyond the mundane trappings of teenage life. Emily had plans to visit art schools in New York City, aspirations to create masterpieces that would resonate far and wide. But her art was personal too. It was a mirror reflecting her insecurities and the complexities of her youth. To her family, Emily was a talented daughter with a tender heart. Yet, as they recounted her journey, they revealed a deeper struggle, a suffocating cloud of anxieties that often left her feeling isolated, even in crowded spaces. Emily's disappearance had rocked the foundation of her world. Her parents, looking for solace, scrambled to piece together the days leading up to that fateful morning. They recalled moments of uncharacteristic silence, a withdrawn demeanor, and the way she obsessively worked on her latest canvas. Trying to capture an essence she struggled to articulate. Friends began to face the reality of the void left behind, flooded with guilt, wondering if they had missed signs pointing to an inner turmoil they hadn't recognized. As the town buried its collective head in speculation about Emily's fate, the complexity of her life and triumphs only hinted at a narrative much darker than anyone had anticipated. The crime scene. The morning of October 12th dawned cool and overcast, an eeriness washing over the dense woods just outside Maplewood. Officers arrived at the scene with the knowledge that the sprawling was undisturbed. They navigated the rough terrain, each step crunching against fallen branches and dry leaves, heightening their senses in the still air. The discovery had been made by a group of teenagers who had ventured into the woods for a day of adventure. They stumbled across Emily's body, hidden beneath a thick canopy of underbrush, laying just off a narrow, twisting path that vanished into darker, more impenetrable shadows. It struck those on the scene with an almost surreal quality, like a scene from a stolen dream, transformed into a nightmare. As investigators cordoned off the area, a sense of urgency filled the air. They began to methodically search the site for any evidence that might lead them to answers. It was a gruesome contrast to the serene beauty of the early fall flashes of police tape, stretched like barriers against the wood's embrace, which now felt sinister and foreboding. Officers noted the absence of any signs of struggle. Her clothes, tattered yet intact, suggested a hurried departure from life. Photographs were taken, and details meticulously documented. Officers combed the surrounding foliage for anything unusual. A discarded item, a broken branch, clues whispering of someone's presence leading to this tragic moment. Each discovery seemed more vital than the last, collapsing the weight of every unanswered question upon the landscape. As the sun dipped lower, the oppressive atmosphere thickened, promising that the peace of Maplewood would be overshadowed by the hunt for the truth. The early investigation. In the wake of Emily Thompson's tragic discovery, the Maplewood Police Department mobilized quickly. Detectives, steeling themselves against the weight of the case, gathered in the cluttered confines of the precinct, a palpable sense of urgency hanging in the air. Lead investigator Detective Sarah Mitchell, known for her tenacity, focused on creating a profile that encompassed everything they knew about Emily and the moments leading up to her disappearance. Witness interviews unfolded throughout the following days, echoing through the once bustling halls of the high school, now steeped in apprehension. Friends recalled Emily's excitement about an upcoming art exhibit. Her phone had been abuzz with messages of encouragement and anticipation. Yet, several students hesitantly recounted unsettling experiences. A peculiar man lingering near the school gates, and the feeling of being watched while walking home. It was the type of talk that ignited the community's fears, wrapping them in layers of trepidation. Detective Mitchell organized a timeline, each fragment of Emily's last days, stitched together with meticulous care. Lost amid the chaos, she identified key figures, dissecting every interaction for clues. She recalled Emily's mother mentioning that Emily had become distant, trapping herself in her art, but the detectives found no significant debt to substance abuse or behavioral issues. Meanwhile, the media seized upon the case, sensationalizing details and portraying Maplewood as a town under siege. Local reports drew larger audiences, turning Emily's story into a focal point of headlines that overshadowed the nuances of her life. But for the detectives, the burgeoning notoriety threatened to complicate the already labyrinthine investigation, leaving them to sift through the noise for the truth that lay hidden beneath it all. The dead ends. As the days blurred into weeks, Detective Mitchell found herself grappling with the ghost of Emily's case. What had begun as a promising investigation now bore the haunting weight of mounting dead ends and unanswered questions. The uniformed officers scoured Maplewood for any trace of the peculiar man spotted near the high school, circulated composite sketches, and interviewed countless witnesses. Yet, with each passing lead, hope dwindled. The small-town dynamics added complexity to the investigation. As names were cleared, others emerged, each with their own layer of obscurity. Friends who had known Emily were reluctant to speak openly, fearful of the implication. Rumors began to slither through the community, whispers of Emily's personal life, her burgeoning relationships, the mounting pressures of teenage expectation. Arguments escalated, tearing friendships apart as mistrust took root in a once supportive community. Detective Mitchell, in her quiet moments, combed through past reports of similar cases, searching for patterns or connections. She pored over Emily's social media in the desperate hope of finding a clue, navigating through art posts and selfies that hinted at both vulnerability and aspiration. Yet, the more she analyzed the evidence, the more elusive the truth became. One particularly revealing conversation with Emily's best friend raised suspicions, only for the friend's account to shift wildly during subsequent interview. Inconsistencies galvanized the frustration, leading the detectives back to square one with few substantive leads. As flyers with Emily's face hung from lampposts, the town remained war. Days turned into nights where dark skies loomed heavy, mirroring the despair that settled in the hearts of those seeking justice. Detective Mitchell clung to the fragments of evidence, searching for a connection that may lead them out of the spiraling labyrinth of uncertainty. A break in the case. Amid the stagnation that plagued the investigation, a sudden break appeared, as if a long-held breath had finally been released. It was on a dreary Tuesday afternoon, the kind that thickened the atmosphere with low-hanging clouds, when a local man stumbled upon a crucial piece of evidence while hiking through the outskirts of Maplewood. As he navigated along a familiar trail, the man noticed something peculiar. Entangled in the underbrush, a fragmented cell phone, half buried in the dirt, its shattered screen reflecting his wide eyes in muted light. Recognizing the importance of his discovery, the man rushed to the police station, clutching the device like a lifeline. Word spread quickly. The detectives gathered around the forensic team as they evaluated the phone with tinges of anxiety. It belonged to none other than Emily Thompson. Excitement crackled through the room as the possibility of new information brought renewed hope to the entire department. Experts carefully extracted the data, and soon the phone revealed a trove of messages exchanged between Emily and various contacts, including conversations kept private from her friends. Among them was an alarming thread of exchanges intimate messages with someone named Alex, whose identity had been previously overlooked. Unknown to the detectives, Alex had woven himself into Emily's life, catalyzing moments of joy and perhaps shadows of jealousy, a combination that complicated the narrative they were constructing. Interviews with Alex illuminated a different side of Emily's story, painting her not only as a talented artist, but as a young woman navigating feelings of love and betrayal. His account of events surrounding their last meeting was filled with hesitation. Each new revelation built a complex frame surrounding her emotional world. But before they could analyze the full impact, Alex's demeanor shifted dramatically when pressed with questions about Emily's whereabouts, leaving detectives more troubled. With the discovery of Emily's cell phone, the investigation gained new momentum, sparking a flicker of possibility in the darkness that had threatened to consume them. There was hope again. The narrative could shift toward a conclusion, but it remained fraught with doubts and chilling uncertainties. The suspect. As Detective Mitchell sifted through the new evidence, Alex's name lingered in the air like a toxic mist. The young man, visible only in fleeting moments prior to this point, became a focal point in the narrative of Emily's life and death. With a growing sense of urgency, investigators delved into his background, seeking to uncover the layers that cloaked his motives. Alex was a senior at the same high school as Emily, an apparent all-star athlete with charm that drew peers to him. But beneath his polished exterior lay a darker truth. As detectives began interviewing teammates and classmates, troubling reports emerged of jealousy linked to his reputation. Whispers of a volatile temper fluttered just below the surface, a shadow cast over the accolades that adorned his life. The detective's next step involved interviewing Alex directly, a fraught undertaking filled with anticipation and apprehension. They set up the meeting at the police station, carefully designed to project a non-threatening environment. When he entered, a confident demeanor juxtaposed against visible tension, he answered questions smoothly, encoding memories into narrative threads that suggested an idyllic friendship with Emily. Yet the falsehoods became apparent as detail began to slip. Discrepancies in timing emerged, and his deflections of focus became sharp and erratic. When pressed about his whereabouts on the night Emily went missing, his stories faltered like fragile glass. Detective Mitchell noted the sweat trickling down his brow, the hitch in his voice barely masked by bravado. The atmosphere thickened as they probed deeper, unraveling threads of control and obsession that twisted around the relationship he had painted so carefully. Emily was portrayed as a muse, yet she also became the tragic subject of a story written with possession. As the detectives fought to navigate this tangled web, the possibility of turning suspicion into evidence loomed close. With every hour that passed in interrogation, the tension mounted, and it became clear that Alex was not just a casual acquaintance in Emily's life. Was likely the person who could ultimately unveil the truth behind her untimely end. The trial. As autumn gave way to winter, and the chill seeped into Maplewood like a harbinger of despair, the trial of Alex Matthews became an echo throughout the community. The trial was set against the backdrop of an old courthouse, whose weary bricks had witnessed countless stories of tragedy and triumph. The air inside buzzed with anticipation, a heavy cloud of sorrow lingering as friends and family gathered, searching for justice for the spirited life of Emily Thompson. Detective Mitchell sat in the front row, her heart a steady drumbeat against the clamor of the proceedings. The prosecution worked meticulously to outline the case against Alex, weaving a narrative that painted him as a man driven by jealousy and desire. Evidence collected: cell phone, the forensic data, the testimonies from friends commingled into a tapestry that caught the courtroom's attention. Each account contributed to the crescendo of Emily's song, now silenced too soon. As witnesses took the stand, the atmosphere thickened with emotion. Emily's best friend recounted shared secrets, revealing how Emily had confided her feelings of unease regarding her relationship with Alex. It was a poignant moment, a spotlight on the shadows of a friendship tested by the chill of betrayal. Those gathered could hardly contain their grief. The weight of loss permeated every utterance, binding their hearts in shared sorrow. In contrast, the defense painted Alex as an unwitting participant, a victim of circumstance who never intended harm. His cold demeanor shifted during cross-examination, cracking just enough to expose the simmering rage beneath his charming facade. The courtroom held its breath at the calculated fragility of his defense, as each attempt to veil the truth further pulled the veil away from reality. Days turned into weeks, the atmosphere thickening with tension as jurors grappled with the testimonies and the evidence laid bare. With every closing argument, the grief coiled tightly around the community, a palpable reminder that no verdict could ever quell the ache left by Emily's absence. The entire town watched, each participant yearning for resolution, but equally aware that understanding the darkness would never be as simple as placing blame. Finally, as the day of the verdict approached, anticipation hung heavily over the courthouse like an oppressive fog. Was his guilt a foregone conclusion, or would ambiguity linger, leaving Emily's story untold in the depths of history? The aftermath. The long-awaited verdict finally echoed throughout the courtroom. Guilty. As the words reverberated off the weathered stone walls, a collective sigh swept through the spectators, a mingling of relief and grief. But the verdict did not erase the pain that clung to the town like a heavy fog, nor undo the damage inflicted on so many lives. Emily Thompson's family, though elated by the ruling, were left grappling with an emptiness that would forever haunt their memories. In the days that followed, the townspeople of Maplewood began the arduous task of rebuilding the community, while learning to navigate the quiet void left by Emily's absence. Murmurs of grief lingered in every corner, from the local cafe where patrons spoke softly over their coffee, to the high school corridors once filled with laughter, now echoing with sorrow. Emily's artwork, previously a source of inspiration, became a somber memorial to walls, adorned with her pieces, imprinted with both brilliance and tragedy. Detective Mitchell found herself reflecting on the broader implications of the events. Though justice had been served, the scars remained an indelible mark on the psyche of a town that believed in safety and innocence. As she walked the familiar streets, she observed how relationships frayed under the weight of distrust. Former friends avoided one another, haunted by guilt and uncertainty. A sense of paranoia blanketed their interactions, and it became painfully evident that the once insulated community had been irrevocably altered by the shadows of violence. Amidst the sorrow, a movement emerged, a renewed commitment to addressing mental health and relationship education within the school. In Emily's honor, initiatives began to foster open dialogue about love, boundaries, and the complexities of adolescent connections. The art community rallied, creating displays that celebrated Emily's life and talents, ensuring that her light, though extinguished, would never truly fade. As winter settled firmly over the town, the sorrow became entwined with resilience, a duality that reminded them all that every ending was also a beginning. Detective Mitchell, armed with the lessons learned through the turmoil, embarked on her own journey toward healing, unearthing pieces buried deep within herself that begged for resolution. The road ahead was fraught with challenges, yet as the snow blanketed Maplewood, it promised to cover wounds, allowing the community and Mitchell to emerge with a renewed sense of hope. Reflection. Months after the verdict, the weight of Emily's story hung palpably in the air as the residents of Maplewood turned inward, contemplating the fleeting nature of life and the fragility of their perceived safety. Detective Mitchell found herself often at the edge of the very woods where Emily had been found, staring at the same path where laughter had once sprung now, a stark reminder of the price paid for ignorance and silence. A chill settled into her bones, but amidst the icy air, a quiet resolve began to unfurl within her. The town was learning to heal, but scars lingered just beneath the surface, far from invisible. Families gathered for talks about relationships, mental health awareness, and art programs in Emily's honor, rejuvenating pockets of community spirit that had withered. Young adults, coiled with the shadows of anxiety, began to embrace vulnerability, sharing their own and untold stories as a beacon of light amid the darkness clouding their lives. Oh, On nights when the moon loomed full and bright, Mitchell would walk the streets, her heart heavy with Emily's memory, but also buoyed by the community's willingness to change. It was an arduous journey toward rebuilding trust, yet it was essential. Together they forged a new future where hope existed amid the loss of diligent promise to remember not only the art Emily had created, but the life she had lived so vibrantly. In the quiet moments of reflection, she understood the power of a single voice, the ability to touch lives and perhaps to inspire transformative change. The echoes of Emily's laughter might never fully return, but they had sparked something vital within Maplewood. An urge to confront their vulnerabilities, celebrate their stories, and honor the memory of a girl whose brush brought color to the world, even in the face of despair.